This is Klopfanstein, and you're in the hot seat on a Medium Monday.
Hi everybody, welcome to the hot seat on this
Hello.
Medium Monday. And today I have a special guest here. I get some of the best ideas for shows on Facebook, and this is a kid who I've been following on Facebook for about, I think, 2 or 3 years now. His name is Drew Allen, and he has a business called Drew's Magic and Balloons. And every time you go on Facebook, you see he's out there at events, and he's making these amazing works of art just with balloons. So in the studio now, I'm going to have some pictures of this on our show notes when I get them posted on our page at yourgotphoenix.net. But in the studio now, he brought with him, he made a balloon phoenix for one thing. It's amazing, the detail on this thing. He actually made a balloon version of me with my sweatshirt here, my microphone, and he's got a balloon radio. He does amazing stuff just with balloons. He makes them into, well, actually, what would you call these, Drew? Like, would you call these sculptures? Or?
Yeah, like balloon sculptures.
Balloon sculptures. So, first of all, how old are you?
I am 15.
You're 15. You already have your own business, and you're out there doing stuff and making a name for yourself and successful. What is your business? What do you do in your business?
I go like all around New York. Like I've been everywhere in New York. I do like city events, birthday parties, graduation parties. I've done any sort of party, and I go there and I do magic if they want it. I do make some awesome balloon animals. That's what I do. Just go around and make people's day. That's what I'm trying to do.
Well, I can see from the pictures that you post that you do that at every event that you attend. But let me ask you. So, like, what made you first realize that like you had an ability to take a simple balloon? These are vinyl balloons, right? Is that what they call them? There's mylar balloons or the shiny.
There's mylar, and then I use latex.
Oh, that's what I see. So these are just regular latex balloons. They tend to be the balloons that you use. They tend to be kind of like long, kind of hot dog-ish shaped, right?
Yeah,
right?
They're called twisting balloons.
Twisting balloons. So let me ask you, like, when did you first realize like you could look at a bunch of what do you call them again? What kind of balloons are they?
Latex.
A bunch of latex twisting balloons. What made you realize that you could like take them and that you personally had the ability to make them into stuff?
So like one year for Easter I got a gift, and it was balloons, and like I was blowing the balloons up, and every balloon I touched immediately popped.
It happens.
But I kept at it, and like it slowly over time I got better and better. Like there's this one photo we have of like this simple little dog I made like the first week into making balloons, and then like 2 years later I made like Draco Malfoy from Harry Potter.
Wow. So you learned fast. So when you made that first dog, like how did it occur to you to like take the balloon and make that? Did you just like think I could probably twist this around and make this into something, or is it?
I was watching YouTube videos on how to do it, and then like all of a sudden it just clicked. I'm like, that's how you do it, because you have to leave air in the end of the balloon. Because I wasn't doing that at first.
Why do you have to do that?
Because like as you twist, that air has to go somewhere.
Oh,
so,
I see.
Like if you're twisting it and you have no room for that air to go, it all builds up. The pressure becomes too much and it goes.
Oh, I see. Because you take the balloons and you kind of segment them into shapes and stuff. So you leave a lot of extra. I bet you pop a lot of balloons, right? Probably still do. So I'm looking at one that you made now. Now this is a balloon sculpture that you made of me with my sweatshirt and hosting the show, and it has different colors and so much like detail and design. When you do something like this, how do you know how do you make it look like something?
I have 2 design processes. One is slow and methodical, and the other ones I do in the heat of time. The one I do in the heat of time, I look at something, I try to picture it in my head, and I do my best to make it. But the one that's slow and methodical, like
describe to me the slow and methodical process you often do.
So like when I'm making people, I try and break them this big creepy people. Sorry,
No, actually, you know what, Drew? We have a lot of art. I have a lot of artists on the show, and what you're describing is similar to what they do too. So I'm really interested. So tell me how you break down the design.
So like whenever I'm making people, I try and simple shapes. Like
Okay.
the face, rounded head, with
Mhm.
eye sockets, nose, and then like pointed jaw.
Yep.
And then I think of like, how can I make this out of balloons? Like there's a few different ways I could have made this. Like I could have used a round balloon instead of squaring the head off. But I like that design, so I went with that one. You can see here, I tried to do it, and I just didn't like how it ended up. So I shrunk the chin. I made it a little bit shorter, and for the body, I did the same.
What's so amazing about this is like, you know, the balloon that makes the balloon that makes the head, the face, it isn't round. It's actually like a long segmented balloon that you've segmented, and you actually like in the head itself. I can count 1, 2, 3, like 5 different colors. I think that you use to compose that.
Yeah.
That elaborate nature of this, like, is this complete? So with these balloon sculptures, do you like completely draw them out, or do you like draw maybe like a basic sketch and try to like play around with it a bit, or is it?
So again, in my sketchbook, like sometimes I'll draw certain parts that I'm not so sure on how to do,
Okay.
and then like sometimes for the phoenix that I made, I'll draw it completely out, and like if you notice, I make like little notes in there, like, oh, this needs
Oh
to be
yes.
this color, and I'm going to use this technique for
Uh-huh.
it. So, because when designing balloons, you have to think of how to look and the order of operations.
Oh,
like
that's
how
an
to make
important
it.
point. So I'm looking at his sketchbook now, and he made us a balloon sculpture of a phoenix. That's pretty amazing. It's got the detail of the wings. It's got the well. It has really. I mean, as per you could possibly have him looking at his design, just how intricate this is. But also, what's curious about this, what impresses me is how intricately you planned out the colors too. So, what is the importance of that when you're making a design?
Because like color is everything, and like normal art and balloon sculptures. Because if you don't have the right colors,
Yeah.
it's not going to look right. Like with the phoenix, you notice there's a lot of erasing because
Mm-hmm.
I swapped around colors with that all the time. I was like, oh, maybe the body will be orange.
Yeah.
It eventually settled on the color scheme it has right now.
Uh huh.
But if like you have to think of what it'll look like, what colors it is, and then you have to look at your balloon supply too, because you're limited with that because you only have certain stuff.
Uh-huh.
Like one of the big balloon things that we use, like companies that we usually get balloons from, just run out
Yeah.
of business, so their
Oh,
stuff is
really?
hard to find. So we're in the middle of switching stuff over, so I have to think of what my supply is, what I want for colors.
Uh huh.
And like just the general shape of colors. Like when I'm making balloons, I'll look at photos of what other people's balloons are made to
Uh-huh.
kind of draw inspiration and the actual thing.
Yeah.
So like when I was looking at phoenixes, I was seeing a lot of oranges, reds, yellows. When I was looking at you, I saw like your sweatshirt.
The
I saw you
sweatshirt.
wear jeans a lot. So
Yeah, oh, I
put
like
jeans
that.
on
Yeah.
there.
I love it. It has a microphone too. This is the coolest thing that has ever brought me on the show. I love this. So you talked about, so and I see in your sketchbook too, like you have things you erase, you drafts of things. When you're working with the colors, like you're planning out your design in the colors, you said that like you changed some of your ideas for the colors you're going to use. Now, do you make those changes in the sketch, at the sketch stage, or do you like put a few together with the colors first and think, maybe I need a lighter color of orange for that, or
It's a mixture of both. Like sometimes I'll visualize it in my head and I'm like, oh, this isn't gonna look that good. And then sometimes I'll be halfway through a design, take a step back and look at it, and I'm like, oh, this does not look good or right at all. So I'll have to completely start over from scratch with the right colors and everything.
So what is your supply like? I mean, do you have like your own room where you make all this stuff? Do you have like I sort of imagine you as like a Martha Stewart room where you have all your balloons and your tables and all this stuff?
So I have like 2 little corners in my house. One corner is where we keep like my stuff that we pull out for parties whenever we leave the house.
Like what stuff would that be?
Like twisting balloons,
Oh, right,
a bunch of
right.
rounds, my pump.
What are rounds? Like just regular round balloons?
Yeah, just regular round
Yeah.
balloons. And then like my pump, I have a bunch of spare stuff.
Mm.
And then if I'm doing magic, I'll bring my magic stuff. I have my tables over there.
What is your magic stuff?
So I do two things of magic. I do the less common walk around, where I'll walk around and show everybody magic trick from table to table, but I mainly do stage magic,
Okay.
which is I'm up in front of a giant crowd of people trying to make them laugh, smile, having fun, just doing magic for everybody.
And like, what kind of tricks do you do? I know I'm not going to ask you how you do your tricks, but what sort of tricks?
I do a mixture of all of them. I have card tricks in there. I have a trick with an elephant I do. I have Rubik's Cube tricks.
What's your Rubik's Cube tricks?
My
I
Rubik's
love
Cube
Rubik's
tricks.
Cube.
I throw it up in the air. I can solve it.
What?
Solve it in a bag.
How do you do that? Oh, you can't tell me, but
Magic.
I know, I'm sure it's super impressive. You solve the Rubik's Cube in a bag?
Yeah.
So without looking at it?
Yep.
Oh my gosh! Well, that would be an amazing trick. I can imagine. So now, do you feel like your ability to do these tricks like goes hands in hand with the balloons, like working with your hands? You got to be really, you know.
Yeah, especially
Mhm.
like when I'm doing balloons at an event. because
Yeah.
People ask questions all the time, and I love answering them. And it's while I'm making the balloons.
Right.
So if you look at me, if you find me at an event, you look, and I'll be making the balloons, not even looking at it, looking at the person, talking about like, oh, I've been doing it for this many years.
So you've gotten to be like so good at that. Your hands kind of like muscle memory. I imagine you kind of know what you're doing and stuff.
Yes.
Now, with the you said you have a pump, right? Do you blow up your balloons, or do you use a pump to blow it up? Do you use your wind power? Or?
I use a pump to blow it up. I have what's called a floor pump.
Uh-huh.
So like on the floor,
Yeah.
like very high up in the air.
Mhm.
There's a story behind that. It's pretty fun.
Well, tell me the story.
So online, those pumps go from anywhere between $300 to like $400.
Wow. So this would be a pump like you would press it with your foot, like a bicycle tire pump kind of thing. or-
Yeah, like you put your foot on it,
Uh-huh.
and then you like pull it down, and it puts air in the balloon.
Oh, okay.
But the fun part is, me and my dad took a trip down to Lowe's, and then we built it for $25.
Wow. What did you build it from? You can tell me that, right? That's not a
Yes.
magic trick.
Some PVC and a dual
Nice.
base piece of wood.
That's great. Well, we're going to talk to your dad in the second segment there, so we'll get you on a mic and you can tell us more about that. It's nice you're doing it with your mom and dad too.
Yes.
So we're gonna meet them in the next segment here. So now you're doing magic, and so I imagine there's like a difference between like what you brought in today. These are like phenomenal works of art, and probably when you're doing like a show, you have to have some things that you can do kind of quick to turn around quickly, like dogs. And what are some kind of the standard balloon animals that people generally know how to make when they what are some of the, I guess what I'm trying to say is, what are some of the things that you are able to do, like without giving too much thought, like just you've done it so many times?
I could do balloons behind my back with my eyes closed for like dogs.
What kind of balloons? You make dogs behind your back with your eyes closed?
Dogs, swords, snakes, cats, dinosaurs.
Wow. How do you do that? It's just so much practice.
So much
and-
practice.
That is incredible, behind your back. So can you like write with your left hand and right hand both? Are you one of those people? I was, something popped in my head. I was thinking you're one of those. That is pretty. And plus to do the Rubik's Cube in your bag, looking behind your back, that too is amazing. What are some of the things that everyone who makes balloon art, like you do? What are some of the greatest hits? The things that like the basic things that people need to know how to do before they kind of go out in the field like you have and start to entertain and have established yourself as a balloon art artist.
So for balloons, like
I
I
bet you're
said,
gonna say the dog, right? Because everybody
Yes.
gets
the
this.
dog, you always have to know to leave the air in the end of the balloon. like I said
Yeah.
earlier.
Yeah.
Dog's a good thing to know. Cat's a good thing to know.
What's the difference between a dog and a cat when you're making balloons?
The face.
Okay, yeah, that
the
makes
dog
sense.
has more of like a longer nose with tall ears, and then the cat has more of like a flatter face with some markers on it to like for the
They must be
nose and
hard to
the
do
ears.
too. I mean, balloons that look magic. Yeah. What are some of the other popular things?
Popular ones, I'd say I make a lot of bunnies, snakes, Swords are very popular. People love getting swords and
Yeah,
having sword
yeah.
fights.
Those are really fun.
This one's a bit more complicated than the dog, but people love like elephants and
Oh,
bunnies.
yeah, yeah.
Dinosaurs.
So if you're at a party, you're entertaining, and someone's like, you're talking to someone about like, you know, what you do, and maybe your banter with the audience stuff. Can you do like a bunny while you're doing that? Can you, while you're talking, you can with your hands make a bunny and stuff.
I can talk and make balloon animals. I've made a balloon animal once with one hand, taking a photo.
One hand. What did you make it?
It was
What was
a dog, very, very simple.
You did it with one hand while you took a photo? Oh my gosh, that's incredible. When you're learning in the beginning, like you learn these basic things like the cat, the dog, the bunny. What were some of the harder, most basic things? Like when you're starting out?
When I was just starting out, cats and bunnies.
Really?
Yes.
Why?
Because there's a certain part in like making it where you have to push the ears or the legs and feet through.
Okay.
Like, because it's a loop, and then
Yeah.
you push part of it through.
Uh-huh.
And if you don't have the air pressure right in that part of the balloon, it just immediately deflates.
Oh, really? Oh, okay. So you have to have to make sure you have. Do you probably still pop a lot of balloons, I imagine, right? Or is that part of that?
Intentional and
Occupational hazard. Right. So how like so you buy your balloons like wholesale in order to do this, and you have like you have a supplier who's going out of business, who's looking for another one?
yeah, so that was just the company who made the balloons.
Yeah.
The supplier we go through, we have one or two, where they just have warehouse just filled to the brim with balloons that we order from.
So like it probably allows you to pick like certain like colors and stuff,
Yes.
like a variety, like more than you might have like at a store.
Like whether we want black 160s, red 260s, whatever we want.
So when you first started to learn how to do this, like you know, you got the balloons, you wanted to try it out. This was about how many years ago? You got balloons in your Easter basket. You were saying.
About 4 years ago.
So about 4 years ago, you get your balloons. You think, oh, I can make this into a thing. Now, did you just start doing it yourself, or did you go to the YouTube videos first to see how other people do it?
I tried to do it myself with the instructions that came with the little kit I got. They were not helpful at all.
Oh.
So then I went to YouTube,
Yep.
and like as you watch more and more videos and learn more and more techniques,
Yeah.
you just get better and better, and you can just like look at photos and be like, oh yeah, I can make that, and like eventually you can get to making your own designs.
Because I imagine, like, once you start to learn some of the basic techniques, you could probably visualize how to use, like, those basic techniques in order to make it, to build upon it and expand it into some kind of, something. You know, a lot of people have told me that are artists about how they do, like, they work initially, like, say, with grids or with charts, and they, like, break down the picture they're going to make into shapes, like you were saying, too. So it's interesting how, like, it's so consistent among different types of art, you know? Now, do you see things like out in the world, like a beautiful sunset or a building or something, and think, I gotta go home and make one of those?
Oh yeah, 100%. I've done that 1 or 2 times, and then my mom will come home and be like, what's this? What, why? And I'm like, because I wanted to.
Because you wanted to. Well, I want to hear more about that. And I also would like to ask you, like, what is the most challenging thing you've ever made, or what's something that like you're still working on, that's your goal and stuff? We're going to have more after this break. You're in the hot, and also after the break we're going to meet your parents and tell us about how they, I'm sure, helped you get into this, and they're helping you make your dad helped you make your pump and stuff, and we'll talk more about that. You're in the hot seat on a Media Monday. We'll be back with Drew Allen more after these breaks. This is Ron Klopfanstein. You're in the hot seat on a Media Monday. Hey everybody, welcome back to the show. You're in the hot seat on a Media Monday. I'm Ron Klopfanstein, and what a great show I had today. I wanted to interview this kid for the longest. It's okay if I call you Ken. I'm sorry. I wanted to interview this guy for the longest time. His name is Drew Allen, and he has Drew's Balloons and Magic. Drew's Magic and Balloons, right? I said that right. And he makes these amazing like balloon sculptures. That's the only way to describe it. They're like works of art. I'm gonna have pictures of these on our show notes. You gotta see this. He made a phoenix. He made a version of me. It's got my sweatshirt, my microphone. I just love this. I love the work that he does. So Drew, you are so great at this, but how do you go from someone who's just good at stuff to somebody who actually founds a business, establishes a business and goes out there and gets booked to do parties and shows? What was your process of developing your business?
So the hardest thing was starting it.
I'll bet.
Because I've always wanted a business. My brother also had a business.
Oh, yeah?
Kind of died out when he went to college. But I always wanted one, and I was always thinking, what could I do? And then the balloons and magic came along.
Yeah.
So I kept nagging my mom, and eventually I nagged her so much that she just made the Facebook page to get me to stop.
Wow. Oh, I love that origin story.
So, and it's kind of.
So what happened with it when you actually had the Facebook page? So like, did people say, hey, my kid's having a birthday party available Saturday from noon to 4 or something like that?
So we kind of just sat there and waited.
Oh.
And eventually someone found us. It was a daycare.
Nice.
Daycare. And so we did
So that was your first job?
Yes.
Good for you.
We did them, and then I guess they recommended me to a bunch of the kids' parents and other people, and it's just kind of grown and spiraled from there. And I've done Oneida City.
Really?
I did a pop-up magic show for them. That was the first time I was in the newspaper.
Uh-huh.
And then for Hamilton's 4th of July, I made balloons, and that was back when I was still using hand pumps, so that was fun.
So you were down in the Village Green in Hamilton?
Yes,
yeah.
and that grew, and then eventually I did the concerts from Village Green. I'm still doing those, still doing 4th of July, and it's just grown. And then I do the show fireworks as well.
So what did you have to have in order to begin? How much did you come up with some money to invest in some balloons and a pump and your startup cost?
Kind of. I what was it? We went to Walmart or Amazon? Just one of the two. Walmart or Amazon, and
Yeah,
we
man,
just
I figured from the
bought
start.
some
Right.
balloons and bought a few pumps, and that was it. That was my.
And just went
startup
out there.
cost.
No, when did the magic start to work into your act? When did you start to work the magic into your act?
I've always loved magic. I did it for my kindergarten talent show. And then
Oh, so you've always been working with that, even
Kind of.
before the balloons then?
yes,
Yeah.
because it died out, and then
Okay.
I picked it up again in 5th grade, and I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, I want to do this for
Yeah.
my 5th grade talent show, and it died out, and then 6th, 7th grade when I did the balloons, I'm like, what can I tie in with this and magic, and then
Perfect.
I met my magic mentor, and he's taught me a lot. I really got lucky.
What's your favorite trick?
My favorite trick? It's a card trick. It's hard to explain. I can do it. So you pick a card, any card you want.
Uh-huh.
You look at the card, you put it back in the deck. We shuffle the deck. We shuffle the deck face up, face down. So you mix all those cards together. I give it a snap. You press the magic button, and all of the cards turn face up the right way around, except for yours.
Wow. Now, that sounds tricky to do, and I imagine it's even more tricky when you're doing that with an audience. What is it like the first time you did a magic trick, with an audience out there?
I did that in my brother's graduation party.
That's
it was very fun.
Yeah.
Because it was the first time. I was all excited. I had practiced for 2 weeks
Really?
just for this. We invited my brother's friends over to come and watch it to practice. It was.
Were
really
they impressed?
exciting. It's
Good. Now, what would you say is your most? You told me what your favorite trick was. Now, what would you say of the tricks that you do? What do you think is the favorite of your audience, or the one that maybe gets the most gasps, or one that's particularly impressive?
I don't know because I'm always changing it around.
Oh, that's
But
good.
in my show, I start and end with basically the same trick always.
And what trick is that?
And it's a trick where I have these big oversized cards. It's a whole joke. It's really just a one big joke that's also a magic trick is how I would describe it.
Yeah.
I end up finding your card. I had it perfectly predicted. I was wearing the shirt of it or something. It's It's always a little bit different, but it's
Yeah.
always like the same process. And then the one I think people really love, and this is also my mom's favorite, is the card trick I end with, where I throw you an invisible deck. You could have named any card, and you turn that card the wrong way around in that deck.
Yeah.
And then I snap, you throw it back to me, it becomes real. And you go through the deck, and the card you said you turned over is turned over.
Oh my gosh, that does sound pretty amazing. So you must have really good sense of, a really good capability for concentration, I would think. In order to keep track of all this stuff while you're in front of a big group, you know, I would imagine it's got to be a little bit hard, but you know, it's a good skill to have. So, do you ever get flustered? I'm sure you do. I'm sure I do toast in the show. So, what do you do if, like, say, you're doing a trick and maybe, and I'm sure this is happening, maybe it didn't work, or I assume they happened, I'm not sure, but you know, you make a balloon and like you're trying to make a balloon and just for whatever reason it just doesn't happen. What do you do?
So if it's like at the magic show, you have to keep moving. The audience is going to forget that you made a mistake. And for like the balloons, sometimes you can't do what they ask, and you feel bad about it, but you have to move on because you have other people
to just like
being
make something else quick form. Maybe. I'm sure that like if you're having a good time up there, the audience had a good time too. So your parents were a big support to you throughout this, and they're here today in this studio. So I think they're on the mic, and I believe I have their mic queued up here. So why don't you introduce your parents to our audience here?
We have my mom. Her name is Danette. She's my momager who
I
handles
like
all
that.
my booking and
Gotta have a manager, yeah.
food costs and everything. And then we have my dad. His name is Jeff.
Hey, Jeff.
He handles all my building, and he helps me set up when I'm at a gig and tear down the tent.
I'll bet
and
there's a
stuff.
lot of that. Now, I bet there's a lot of work to do to set those up. Is that correct, Jeff?
Well, we've gotten into pretty good
You got a system
world of
down,
getting
I
it-
can
yeah,
imagine.
system of getting it together. So we pretty much know who does what and
Yeah.
setting up and pulling apart. And
So you're
all
going.
that.
So if you're going to a show like the fireworks or like the Oneida Village Green or 4th of July stuff, what do you have to bring? Like how many balloons? How many do you have to bring? Like 50 black, 50 white, 50 blue. You know. How do you plan that?
I just put a bunch of balloons in a bucket
Yeah.
and hope that it's enough. And it usually is, unless there's like 500 people at the event. But
Because you can always make something, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure you can. Yeah.
We've only ran out of balloons at an event like once, and so.
But that's
we
probably a
learned
good
from
sign. You've been
Yeah.
popular.
that. Yes, we learned from that, and now when we go to a bigger event, we always have a cart that we put
Oh,
extra
okay.
balloons in. In
Yeah.
case the main tub of balloons runs out.
How many do you think you use in that show?
Too many to
I
count.
was gonna say it must just be nonstop making them one another, making one, you know.
Yes.
So you must be so proud of your son. Looking at your mom right now, so you must be so proud of him. Like 15 years old, he has a successful business and making a name for himself, and this incredible talent that he exhibits.
Yeah, I'm very proud of him. We call it our bonding time when we have gigs and stuff.
Oh,
So-
so you guys do it as a family. You go out to support him and help him. Well, of course, you
Yeah,
probably
pretty
can't drive, so.
No, we cannot drive.
Yeah.
October.
Oh, in October. Good for you. So you'll be 16 in October. And in
Yes.
11th grade, too. Congratulations. So you'll
Yeah.
take the Regents this year in English, you know. I don't know about the other subjects. I'm sure you have other Regents, too. But I know about that one. But you'll, with your ability to focus, you're going to do fine. So what are some of the fun things that you guys have done, like at shows? Like, do you ever talk to your parents, or do you ever talk to the audience and get feedback from them, or do you mostly just help Drew hand him what he needs, or what do you guys do when you're at a show to help him with this act?
Well, I will ask people what they want to keep the line flowing.
Oh yeah.
And his dad sets up the tent and does all the behind the scenes, food or something.
And then,
Always support.
Yeah, it must be quite a lot to get all this set up so that you can talk to your audience and you don't have to worry about those details and stuff. when you're doing these shows, like what do people mostly want you to make? What's the most number one request if someone wants to do?
Requests are usually things that I usually have on like my choice board, but like took off.
That's a good idea. So you have a choice board to kind of make it a little bit, like these things to do.
And then like it's fun because at some events,
Yeah.
there's not that many people, so we get more fun with our choice board.
Oh yeah,
But,
yeah.
like, it'll be people who have seen me before, want a balloon, and a specific balloon that I made them or can make that's not on the choice board for the day.
So they'll remember. Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you usually do that?
Yeah.
You remember? Amongst the popular like your choice board, what's amongst those ones you make a lot? What's the easiest one?
Easiest one, dogs and swords.
What's the hardest one?
Sometimes we put on there. We just finished putting it on there. We had an Olympic torch. And used like 3 balloons.
Different colors, like to make
Yes.
the colors of the flame.
Different colors. Sometimes I could get away with using 2. Sometimes I'd have to use 3. And then like, obviously you have your harder ones. Like sometimes I'll make a fancier dinosaur because the line's
Oh, if there's
shorter.
less people in line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it all depends on the line on how fancy I can get with the balloons.
Probably like you going probably use like more balloons if there's less people in line. They have colors and stuff to it.
Yes.
So.
So you can
So what has it ever happened where you were like making a balloon, you're making a balloon, it's just gone blank? I was gonna say, I'm sure.
I'll be making a balloon, and they'll be wanting like a blue cat, and I'll make them like a purple fish. And, like, you wanted a
Okay,
blue
why did
cat,
I right?
and then we call it testing our memory.
Uh-huh.
We'll ask them what they want, and
Yeah.
it'll be later in the event when we're already tired, and then we'll get to them and they'll be like, "What did you say you wanted?"
And they probably don't even remember at that point. Do they remember?
Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. That's when it's fun.
So what's something that you are trying to do? Like what's the most elaborate thing? Or maybe something that is like your like a goal that you're working on. Like I would like to make one of those. Like the Olympic torch, it must be kind of like a relatively new addition to your repertoire. So what are some things now where you're thinking like, you know what, I gotta figure out like the one of me, like you must have thought, I gotta figure out how to make one of him, What's some of the things now you're working on? Like I'd like to make one of those.
Some of the things I'm working on now, I'm currently preparing for October because I did this last year and I'm doing it again this year. I make one every day for Halloween in October.
Oh, okay.
And then I'm also
Like one of what? A
balloon sculpture.
Okay.
And then
What do you do with it? Like put it on Facebook or?
we put it on Facebook. I have a TikTok. I have a
Oh, nice.
But we really just posted on those 2.
So for October, like, do you have some of the days planned out? Are you still working on some ideas for ones, or are you like challenging yourself? I imagine.
I'm currently starting to plan out the days.
Yeah.
Like day 1, I'm making a small little haunted house, and like I'll sit and I'll order them on like complication because like as we go on, day 31 is usually I make my Halloween costume out of balloons.
I was gonna say the haunted house sound like it'd be the hardest one. That's your day 1.
Yes.
Oh, so you're going more complicated from there. So it's gonna be pretty great to see your Facebook page in October with all these things.
Mm-hmm.
What is a haunted house gonna be like? I love haunted house.
Just like
I'm
your
a Halloween fan,
so just like your classic cartoon haunted house with like a lot of towers and like some ghosts, some bats.
Wow.
maybe
So how many
skeleton.
colors are they going to use in that?
At least 5.
Nice.
Maybe.
Nice. So your goal is to make one of these every day in the month of October. All 31 days. You're going to post them on Facebook and stuff. Do you have any plans of like what are you thinking of? Do you have anything in your head to think like in October? I'm going to try to make this, but I don't know how I'm going to do it yet. But I'm going to try to do this. What's some of those things that you want to try to do you haven't done yet?
I haven't done yet. I've always wanted to make because like the sculpture that I made you is slightly like scaled down. I've always wanted to make a full scale balloon sculpture like that's as tall as I am.
Wow. So you think you'll do that in October?
Maybe.
Yeah, you're gonna make your own Halloween costume too.
Yes.
Well, I definitely got to hear more about that and all your Halloween plans and what you're going to be doing next. And we'll also talk about like where people can find you on Facebook and find the events you're doing. And we'll have that in the next segment of the show. Also, we're going to hear from Lisa Matt, the director of the Jervis Public Library in Rome. I just did a workshop there last Wednesday, one of my media writing workshops, and we're going to talk to her about how the Jervis Library is bouncing back after the tornado and how they're helping the people of Rome bounce back, and some of the services and activities you can do at the Jervis Public Library. And then after that, we'll hear more from Drew and his mom and dad about Drew's magic and balloons and some of the great events he has coming up, and we'll talk a little bit more about some of the great things he's going to do with his business. You're in the hot seat on a Media Monday. I'm Ron Klopfanstein with more after the break. This is Ron Klopfanstein, and you're in the hot seat on a Media Monday. Hi everybody, welcome back to the hot seat. This is a Media Monday, and we have on the phone Lisa Matt, the director of the Jervis Public Library in Rome. And I was just at the Jervis Public Library last Wednesday I did one of my journalism and content creation for digital and streaming media workshops. I really had a great time there in Rome. So Lisa, thank you for having me.
It was our pleasure. Thank you for coming.
And you guys are doing you guys always do a lot, but you're doing I feel like a lot more now because of the tornado. And it really is a time that it's been nice to see the people of Rome and really the groups in Rome kind of step up and help each other. And the library is really a big part of that, right?
It was really amazing to see. And of course, we meet community needs, and we just never know what those needs will be. So in July, it happened to be helping the community bounce back. And the very first thing we did was we were open on generator, and people came in droves to charge their devices and use Wi-Fi because they didn't have that, and they needed to take pictures and upload them for their insurance. And it was heartbreaking and also heartwarming at the same time because there was need, and we were honored to be their chosen spot to take care of that.
It's really interesting and that kind of underscores the point about how libraries do so much more than just lending out books and DVDs. The services, the internet. After a crisis, you had power, the generator for people to use, and there's just so much that you guys do.
It really is amazing, and it's amazing that the Board of Trustees is always thinking ahead, and they support things that we can anticipate and that we can't anticipate. So we had, for example, legal aid services come to the library to answer folks' questions. We had National Grid here to answer folks' questions. While the event was happening the next day, we actually had the Syracuse News come to the library to use our Wi-Fi to edit their video.
Wow! So you had journalists from Syracuse come to use. So it really was. What was it like right after? What was it like for you guys when the hurricane hit on that day in the library?
Well, the day of course, it was unusual outside, and we have a procedure in place, which we've had in place for, I would say, between 8 and 10 years now. I don't remember the exact date. So we have a procedure, and it was followed to a T, and it went out without a hitch, and I exited my office, which is on the second floor, and when I got out the door, I could already see the staff herding people into the safe area. And then during the warning, we stayed with people. We were making phone calls to adults to let them know that their minors were in the building with us and were safe.
Oh, that's nice.
We were monitoring the situation as well as we could just by seeing the weather reports. And the odd thing about it is that many of us were receiving pictures from people who didn't live here. So people had family members elsewhere, and their friends were sending them pictures, but we were still in our safe spot and didn't know what exactly had happened. So that was really unnerving.
It's good that you took it so seriously because when on that day I actually was in New Hartford. My husband and I were shopping. Actually, I was in New Hartford shopping center. But even if I were home, to be honest, I never would have taken a tornado warning I would never take one. I never took them as seriously as I do now, because I wouldn't have thought it could happen here, but it certainly can. I guess we found out.
Yeah, it was only, the destruction was only a block to the south, so
Yeah.
it was close. We had pieces of other folks' roofs on our roof. We had all sorts of things in the yard, which is big. We have a large piece
Yeah.
of land here. And it was frightening and
Not bad.
strange, and we weren't even right there in the center.
Yeah, yeah.
We're in the periphery. So
Yeah, I interviewed.
seriously, and people don't doubt that we should now.
Right. I mean, it's really changed my perspective about this. You know, I've lived here my whole life. I mean, in West Bryan, and I never really thought that it was like, you know, I would have come inside, but I wouldn't have thought like that I would have to like really hide from a potential hurricane. And like I was only, you know, we live about 10 minutes away, so it wasn't like, it's a shocking thing. What are some of the like current needs that people still have in Rome that the library is helping with?
Well, we always refer people to services, so whatever they have that is a need, we are in touch with connected community schools and social services, and that's something that people need right now. They're not aware of where the new social services location is, so we've been referring people a lot to that 100 west of X Street location, which is a former Berkshire Bank across from Forest Stanwick. So folks will come in here and say, where's the DSS building? Where do I get the services? So we know where it is, and we refer people to them. And then we sort of listen to what is it that's a common question, and then we can figure out a way to meet that need. But we were feeding people not full meals, obviously. Connected community schools had that a few blocks down. But really keeping kids engaged is something that was important after the storm. And still, right now, it's important to keep kids engaged. They're in a building that has air conditioning. In the winter, we have heat. And that is often overlooked. But
Yeah.
you being an educator, you know about
Yes.
Maslow's hierarchy. And that
Right,
bottom is
right.
shelter.
Yeah.
Shelter from the storm. And in this case, it was Earl. And we see it in the winter a lot. We see it when it's hot. We have that heat index.
Yeah.
So we provide basics, but we also provide referrals to whatever else folks might need.
I was thinking that, and like when it happened in the days after, it probably would have been easier for some of the kids if it was during school time, because they would have a place to go. You know,
Yeah,
And right now
that's a
they-
great question.
they kind of don't.
And right after the event, I thought, my gosh, 1 week ago, we were all on Dominic Street with Cycle the Erie program.
Right.
And it was just a week before the tornado hit. And wow, that would have been catastrophic. With 300 bicycles on the Forest Stanwick.
Right.
And
Oh
I'm
yeah.
sure I have the number wrong, but it was a lot of folks. We were down there for the block party that they had, so there was a stage set up, and there were multiple nonprofits tabling with tents on the street. And I thought, wow, what an amazing thing that it didn't happen then.
Oh, I know. Yeah. And it really has been nice to see like how the people of Rome, and especially the nonprofits, have really like stepped up so much and become so prominent. You know, the library, connected schools, they're going to be on the show in September. The United Way has been on a few times talking about the 2-in-1 program and stuff, and it's kind of nice to see that like when the chips are down, that people will still come out to help one another.
It's really amazing. There's nothing like that feeling of, wow, we're all in this together, and we can get through it.
Yeah. Well, Lisa, thank you for calling in. I had a really good time last week at the library with my workshop, and I hope to do more of those next summer, maybe even throughout the year, maybe now and then, you know. But I appreciate you hosting me, so thank you.
Thank you so much for coming and sharing your wisdom with everyone, and thanks for having me on.
We'll talk again soon. Bye.
Take care.
So, Drew, back to you. So, what are some of the things? So you're booked, busy throughout September and October, and of course you're going back to school and stuff. If someone wants to book you for an event, how do they get in touch with you, and what's their process?
So they can either go through my Facebook page
Mhm.
or my mom's number,
Okay.
and we basically ask them what they want, what
Yeah.
they want me for. Because you can get me for magic and balloons, just magic,
Uh-huh.
and then we develop a price point from there.
So when you do, do you do sometimes both, like magic and balloons both? So you're able to do both, which I imagine must be kind of hard to keep that straight in your head, you know, to what we're doing and stuff. And so let's bring your parents back in the conversation here. So now, what is do either of you have like some kind of artistic thing that you've worked on in your life? I mean, what is your art? You must have some art because your son's talented, and you said your brother too had a business as well. So
Well, I'm actually a tool maker,
okay,
so I work with steel and titanium, and I work on the base.
did you always make stuff? Like, do you like to make stuff?
Yeah,
So you can see where that.
I make stuff for a living, and then at home I get into making woodworking,
Oh, okay.
furniture and stuff like that, and which he's picking up on. and-
Nice. So you must have seen that growing up, like your parents. What do you do? Your mom do you practice any art form, or do you have a business, or?
I have no art talent whatsoever. I can draw a straight line with a ruler, so he's just very lucky and very talented.
So you must be enjoying the ride though, with your son being so talented what he does and his business taking off and stuff. You know, being a manager is like an art itself. I would imagine so.
That's true.
So, and I'm sure it's a lot of work as well too. You know, to keep all that. Yeah. So you must. So who does the accounting? Like, do you do the math, or to make sure that you're making a profit and you're not spending it all on the balloons or supplies? Or
My dad does all of that. I don't worry about that. I just-
Oh, that's good. You just do the work and talk to the people and stuff.
Yeah.
How did you? No, you must have had to. That takes a while to work up the ability to talk to people. I know this as a teacher. You know, you have to you get better as you do it. Like you walk in front of a classroom, and like at first it's nervous, and at times I'm nervous too. You know, at times probably like you do too. Like at times you start talking about stuff and you have no idea what you're talking about. And you're like, oh, let me start again. And you get used to that kind of thing, but at first it can be hard. So how did you work up your kind of stage banter or your audience banter? How did you practice that and perfect that?
Doing it over and over
And over again.
Like for my magic show, I have a loose script that
Oh,
I follow.
okay.
So I know I'm gonna say this line here, but
Mhm.
everything in between, I'm gonna have fun with the audience.
So you kind of remember sort of as if sort of like an outline of your show. And then in the middle you kind of improvise and stuff. Do you write any of that down, or do you just have that cue cards, you just have that off the top of your head?
Off the top of my head.
So very good. So how long is a show that you do?
It can run about from 25 to 30 minutes.
Okay. And so after you do it, most shows, do you mingle with the audience after that and stuff? It probably depends on what the client wants, I imagine, what the venue is and stuff.
Usually, if I'm doing a magic show, I'm also doing balloons.
Yeah.
So I just go right into setting up for balloons and making balloons.
It must be kind of exhausting to do to do
Sometimes.
both. I mean, because just being on stage is it takes a lot out of you, probably more than people realize. Because there's no matter how good you are, and you're very smooth at this. I'm sure that it's still stressful. It's still work.
Especially when we have 2 events in one day.
Oh, I'll bet. Yes, I'll bet. Now, I asked you before, what you work on in terms of your balloons, what kind of what current goals you have. Let me ask you in terms of magic, what are some of the tricks that first let me ask you, what are some of the tricks that you learned quickly, you learned first? What are some of the basic tricks that came easy to you?
Just all card tricks.
All the card
Because
tricks.
that's all on YouTube. You can go and watch it. But as you get more into it, you
Yeah.
start learning more and more stuff. And whenever we go on a vacation, if there's a magic shop nearby, I drag my family up there.
Oh, nice.
I can spend an entire day in a magic
I'll
shop.
bet. So what are some of the magic tricks that you are aspired to? You must see some really cool like tricks on Facebook and on YouTube and stuff, and think, you know what, someday I gotta figure out how they did that, or I gotta figure out how to do that myself.
Anything Penn and Teller do. I always
Okay.
just, like, they're just great comedians. They know how to play off
Yes,
the audience.
true. Yes.
And their magic is just really good. So,
Have you worked any of their tricks into your act so far?
no. But I've worked some of their comedy stuff.
Now, do they do tricks or do they just debunk stuff? I've seen them shows where like they figure stuff out though. Do they do tricks too?
They do both.
They do both.
Sometimes they do magic debunking. Sometimes they just do magic. Sometimes they just do debunking.
And I imagine probably nowadays, like everything, if you want to find out, it probably is debunked on YouTube. Like if you, and that's probably like what you use as a magician, because you need to know how how it works, you know. So, what's something that like you're working on now in terms of magic what's something that was hard for you to learn a magic trick?
Just sleight of hand.
Yeah.
Because I'm ambidextrous, but sometimes my handwriting is very messy.
Okay.
So, like, sometimes I have trouble with controlling individual fingers and everything. So sleight of hand was really hard.
It must be really hard because an element of that too is you have to like use misdirection, kind of distract the audience when you do it. But if you can do the Rubik's Cube in a bag, and I'm like so tempted to ask you how you possibly do that. We're not going to. I don't want you to reveal your magic, but I gotta say that is like I'm impressed by also these balloons are extraordinary, but doing a Rubik's Cube behind your back or in a bag, that is like, oh my gosh, that's pretty
It's so funny.
in your mouth.
It's a small one.
Oh, I was gonna say you could be choking like that. Wow. Well, how possibly though? I gotta ask, like, because you can't see it. You just make it
Look
work.
at the cube, memorize the cube, and then think
Oh
of
my
language.
gosh. So do you have like a photographic memory? Like, you must have a pretty strong memory. I
Yes.
would imagine, like stronger than most, I would think, to remember all this stuff. But to memorize what a Rubik's Cube looks like in order to solve it without looking at that is pretty amazing. Yeah. So your friends must be impressed by all this stuff that you do. Do you ever do stuff like this at school or bring stuff to
Yes, my principal loves me.
What's
'Cause I'm just
your
showing
school?
I go to Oneida High School.
Oh, okay. That's where I was working in summer school. I mean, for BOCES, but you know, it's a nice school there. Yeah. Yeah.
All my teachers love me. Like
Yeah.
when I made the balloons for Halloween, I would just bring them in.
I
and
bet
give
they
them
were
to my
amazing.
teachers.
Oh yeah. So is that something you've done most like Halloween seasons?
I started it last year, and
Yeah.
I really liked it, so I'm going to do it again this year.
I'll bet it drives a lot of people to your Facebook page too. You know, because I mean, one of the things that like one of the purposes of the show too is to like celebrate people that are doing art, but making people that make content. You know, and that's one of the things I like about your page is like the pictures of your balloons. I'm like always like, oh my god, how did he do that? You know, that's like the most incredible thing. So now, when you're using balloons, it seems like balloons are mostly sort of like, you have a lot of color variety here, but balloons are kind of bright primary-ish colors, right?
Yes, you can get them in almost any shade, but I have a bunch of because they're cheaper than like getting like maroon or all these darker, because you can get them in light or dark. So
Yeah.
typically I stick
So
with light.
the way that you blend your stuff to like really create the semblance of the thing you're trying to make, has that changed the way that you look at stuff?
Oh yes, 100%. I'll be looking at some stuff with my friends sometimes, and I'll just be staring at it and be like, "Troy, what are you doing?" I'm like, "I could make that out of balloons, make that round and all this." Like I'll be dreaming, and I'll wake up, and like in my dream I'll be making a brand new balloon, and I'll have to hurry to write it down so I don't forget it.
I love that story. That's what I thought you were going to say. The dream part, that's amazing though. But like, I really love how being an artist changes how we look at the world. You know, that's kind of an amazing thing. You know, it's like that's what art is about. You look at the world and you like create parts of it in your own version and stuff. And so, Drew, thank you for coming on the show. I'm as impressed with you as I thought it would be. So that was a high bar too. So tell people like, how can they find you on Facebook?
You can find me on Facebook under Drew's Magic and Balloon Animals. very original.
And yeah, well, that's it. Gets right to the point. And I'll have links to all that on the show notes and your TikTok page with that too. And we'll have that at unicaphoenix.net. I'll try to get that up later in the week. Sometimes that takes me a little bit longer than I expect, but I'll do the best I can. Drew, thank you so much for being on the show. I wanted to interview you for the longest time, and now you're here, and these balloons you made are great, and your stories are great, and I think people are going to be super impressed with you even more than they are now. And in October, when we go into your Facebook page every day to see your latest balloon. So Drew Allen was my guest today from Drew's Magic and Balloons. We were in the hot seat on a Media Monday. Now I'm going to kick it back to Jay Easy for the easy ride home. And my guest next week will be Luke Rado. He's from WKTV, and he's been working in the summer for WKTV News. He's been anchoring the news. We're going to talk about his journalism and what he's doing in college, and that'll be next week. Luke Rado on the hot seat, Media Monday.